The year is 1929. America, a beacon of prosperity, faces a crisis unlike any other. The stock market, once a symbol of boundless opportunity, crashes. Fortunes vanish. The American dream, built on hope and hard work, crumbles before the eyes of millions. A breadwinner, once proud, now stands in a line for hours just to feed his family. A farmer tied to the land watches helplessly as dust storms swallow his crops and his future. This wasn't just an economic downturn, it was a human tragedy. Yet, from the ashes of despair, a resilient spirit emerged. The Great Depression might seem like a distant memory, a chapter confined to history books, but its echoes resonate in our present. As we grapple with rising income inequality, soaring debt, and volatile markets, the parallels are unsettling. Cryptocurrencies, meme stocks, and inflated housing markets all bear a striking resemblance to the risky behaviors that precipitated the Great Depression. History, it is said, repeats itself. But we, as inheritors of the lessons learned, have the power to break the cycle. The story of the Great Depression isn't just a tale of economic collapse. It's a story of resilience, adaptation, and ultimately, hope. By understanding the mistakes of the past, we can chart a different course for our future. We must prioritize financial responsibility, promote equitable economic policies, and foster a spirit of collective action. The Great Depression serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that economic stability is not a guarantee, but a responsibility. It's a call to action, urging us to learn from the past, adapt to the present, and build a more resilient future. The Roaring Twenties, they called it, a time of jazz, flappers, and seemingly endless prosperity. The stock market, a symbol of this newfound wealth, soared to dizzying heights. But beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. People, caught up in the frenzy of speculation, were buying stocks on margin, borrowing heavily against their future earnings. The warning signs were there: inflated stock prices, overproduction in industries, and a growing gap between the rich and the poor. Few could have predicted the catastrophic crash that awaited. October 29, 1929. A date etched in history as Black Tuesday, the day the music stopped and the Roaring Twenties came to a screeching halt. The stock market, already showing signs of strain, went into a freefall. Panic gripped Wall Street. Traders, their faces ashen, watched in disbelief as stock prices plummeted. Fortunes, built over years, evaporated in hours. The American dream, once seemingly within reach, felt like a cruel illusion. The stock market crash triggered a domino effect that rippled through the American economy. Banks, heavily invested in the market, went bankrupt, unable to repay their depositors. Businesses, facing a sudden drop in consumer spending, were forced to lay off workers. Unemployment skyrocketed. Lines for bread and soup kitchens stretched for blocks, a stark testament to the growing desperation. Families were evicted from their homes, forced to live in makeshift shantytowns known as Hoovervilles. The Great Depression had begun. From the ashes of this crisis, a new era of government intervention and social safety nets would emerge. The bustling cities of America, once symbols of prosperity and opportunity, transformed into somber landscapes of desperation. The unemployed, their numbers swelling by the day, roamed the streets, their faces etched with worry and defeat. The lucky ones found solace in the bread lines, those long, snaking queues that became a defining image of the Great Depression. For many, the simple act of putting food on the table became a daily struggle. Families who had never known hardship were forced to rely on charity. The bread lines offered a lifeline, but also a stark reminder of the depths to which the nation had fallen. The American dream, once so tantalizingly close, had morphed into a cruel mirage. While the cities grappled with unemployment and breadlines, a different kind of devastation gripped the American heartland. A relentless drought, coupled with years of unsustainable farming practices, transformed once fertile fields into a dust bowl. The skies darkened as massive dust storms swept across the Great Plains, burying crops and homes under a suffocating blanket of dust. The farmers, their livelihoods inextricably linked to the land, watched in despair as their world turned to dust. Many were forced to abandon their farms, their homes, and generations of heritage to seek a better life elsewhere. These Okies, as they were often called, set out on a pilgrimage of hope, heading west towards the promise of California. The Great Depression cast a long shadow over America. Its effects felt most acutely by the most vulnerable, the children. For a generation that grew up during this time of hardship, the experience would leave an indelible mark. Childhood, once a time of carefree joy, became synonymous with scarcity and worry. Many children, their families struggling to make ends meet, were forced to drop out of school and contribute to the family income. They worked odd jobs, shining shoes, selling newspapers, or doing whatever they could to help put food on the table. The psychological impact of the Depression on children was profound. The Great Depression was a time of immense hardship, a period that tested the limits of the American spirit. Yet, even in the darkest of times, amidst the breadlines and the dust storms, seeds of resilience were sown. Communities, bound together by shared adversity, found strength in unity and support. Neighbors helped neighbors, sharing what little food and resources they had. Families opened their homes to those who had lost theirs, offering shelter and a sense of belonging. Community gardens flourished, providing fresh produce and a sense of purpose in a time of uncertainty. It was a time when community, compassion, and the indomitable human spirit helped a nation endure and eventually overcome one of its darkest chapters. The year is 1933. America, reeling from the Great Depression, pins its hopes on a new leader, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. His message, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself," resonates with a nation desperate for change. Roosevelt's New Deal, a series of programs and reforms designed to alleviate the suffering and rebuild the nation, becomes a defining moment in American history. From the Civilian Conservation Corps to the Works Progress Administration, the New Deal transformed the American landscape and put millions back to work. The Social Security Act provided a safety net for the elderly, the unemployed, and the disabled. The New Deal marked a turning point in American history, ushering in an era of government activism and social responsibility. In the aftermath of the Great Depression, America emerged with a newfound appreciation for the importance of financial regulation and social safety nets. The Securities and Exchange Commission was created in 1934 to oversee Wall Street. The Glass-Steagall Act, passed the same year, separated commercial banking from investment banking. These reforms, along with the New Deal programs, helped to stabilize the American economy and prevent another Great Depression. However, over time, the lessons of the Great Depression began to fade from memory. The forces of deregulation gained momentum in the latter part of the 20th century. As the 21st century dawned, the gap between the rich and the poor in America began to widen at an alarming rate. The top 1% of earners amassed a disproportionate share of the nation's wealth, while the middle class struggled to keep up with stagnant wages and rising costs of living. This growing inequality, reminiscent of the economic disparities that had fueled the social unrest of the 1930s, posed a significant threat to the American dream. The warning signs were there, but they were largely ignored. The lessons of the Great Depression, it seemed, had been forgotten. The financial crisis of 2008 exposed the fragility of the deregulated financial system. Once again, millions of Americans lost their homes, their jobs, and their savings. The Great Depression, though a painful chapter in American history, offers invaluable lessons for our time. It reminds us that economic stability is not a given, but a product of sound policies, responsible behavior, and a commitment to social justice. The lessons of the Great Depression are particularly relevant today, as we face a future fraught with economic uncertainty and social unrest. The challenges we face, climate change, income inequality, political polarization, are complex and daunting. But we must not succumb to despair or apathy. We must draw inspiration from the resilience and determination of those who endured the Great Depression. We must demand policies that promote economic fairness, that protect consumers and workers, and that invest in education, infrastructure, and a sustainable future. The future is not predetermined. It is shaped by the choices we make today. Section 1. The Spectre of Speculation, from tulip mania to tech bubbles. The echoes of the Great Depression reverberate most ominously in the realm of speculation, that seductive siren song of quick riches and easy profits. Throughout history, from the Dutch tulip mania of the 17th century to the dot-com bubble of the late 1990s, periods of unbridled speculation have inevitably been followed by devastating crashes, leaving economic ruin and shattered dreams in their wake. Today, we see the same patterns emerging in new and unsettling ways. Cryptocurrencies, once hailed as the future of finance, have experienced wild fluctuations in value, attracting both ardent believers and wary skeptics. The allure of decentralized, unregulated markets has drawn comparisons to the speculative frenzy that gripped Wall Street in the 1920s. While cryptocurrencies offer potential for innovation, their volatility and susceptibility to manipulation raise concerns about a bubble that could burst, leaving investors with substantial losses. The housing market, too, has shown signs of overheating in recent years, with prices in many areas reaching unsustainable levels. Driven by low interest rates, speculation, and a shortage of affordable housing, the current market bears an uncomfortable resemblance to the housing bubble that burst in 2008, triggering the Great Recession. The lessons of history are clear. Unchecked speculation, whether in tulips, tech stocks, or real estate, is a recipe for disaster. Section 2. Debt and Discontent, a house of cards built on borrowed time. One of the most alarming parallels between the Great Depression and our current economic landscape is the staggering level of debt, both public and private, that burdens individuals, businesses, and nations alike. Just as excessive borrowing on margin fueled the speculative bubble of the 1920s, today's reliance on credit cards, student loans, and government borrowing creates a precarious house of cards that could collapse under its own weight. The student loan debt crisis, in particular, highlights the dangers of unmanageable debt. Millions of young Americans saddled with crushing student loan payments are delaying homeownership, starting families, and saving for retirement, hindering their ability to contribute to the economy's long-term growth. Government debt, too, has reached unsustainable levels in many countries, fueled by tax cuts, increased spending, and the economic fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic. While some level of government debt can be necessary to stimulate economic growth, excessive debt can lead to higher interest rates, inflation, and a loss of confidence in the economy. The lessons of the Great Depression are clear. Unchecked debt, whether public or private, is a ticking time bomb that threatens to undermine economic stability and social cohesion. Section 3. A crossroads of choice, shaping the future, learning from the past. As we stand at this crossroads, facing economic headwinds and societal challenges, the lessons of the Great Depression offer both a cautionary tale and a beacon of hope. We have the opportunity and indeed the responsibility to learn from the mistakes of the past and forge a more equitable and sustainable future. The choices we make today will determine whether we repeat the errors that led to economic devastation or chart a new course toward shared prosperity. We must prioritize policies that promote economic fairness, reduce income inequality, and provide opportunities for all. This includes investing in education and job training, raising the minimum wage, strengthening social safety nets, and creating a progressive tax system that requires the wealthiest Americans to pay their fair share. We must also address the systemic racism and discrimination that continue to plague our society and hinder economic mobility for marginalized communities. Investing in affordable housing, healthcare, and quality education for all, regardless of race or ethnicity, is not only a moral imperative, but an economic necessity. The Great Depression serves as a stark reminder that economic stability and social justice are inextricably intertwined. By heeding the lessons of history, embracing the principles of fairness and sustainability, and working together to create a more equitable society, we can build a future where the mistakes of the past are not repeated, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow is within reach for all. Section 1. The Enduring Spirit. The images of the Great Depression are stark and haunting. We see the breadlines, the dust storms, the faces etched with worry and despair. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the magnitude of the suffering, the sense of hopelessness that pervaded that era. But we must remember that the Great Depression is not just a story of economic collapse, it's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Amidst the hardship, acts of kindness and compassion flourished. Neighbors helped neighbors, sharing what little they had. Communities came together to support those in need, organizing soup kitchens, clothing drives, and shelters for the homeless. The human spirit, though tested, refused to be broken. The Great Depression reminds us that even in the darkest of times, hope can endure. It teaches us that adversity can foster resilience, compassion, and a deep appreciation for the things we often take for granted. It's a reminder that we are stronger together, that our collective strength lies in our ability to lift each other up, to offer a helping hand, and to never give up hope for a brighter future. Section 2. Our Moment of Choice. The Great Depression, though a distant memory for many, holds profound lessons for our time. It's a stark reminder that economic stability is not a given, that the pursuit of unchecked greed and speculation can have devastating consequences, and that the choices we make today will determine the course of our future. We stand at a crossroads facing challenges that are both complex and daunting. But we are not powerless. We have the power to learn from the mistakes of the past, to choose a different path, to build a future that is more just, more equitable, and more sustainable. We must demand better from our leaders, holding them accountable for policies that prioritize the well-being of all citizens, not just the privileged few. We must invest in education, healthcare, and infrastructure, creating a society that provides opportunity for all, regardless of background or circumstance. The Great Depression teaches us that we are not merely passengers on the ship of state. We are the crew. We have the power to shape the course of history, to steer ourselves towards a brighter future. The question is, will we heed the warnings of the past and choose wisely? The answer lies in our collective hands.